I'm going to give you some tips on creating a watercolour painting. We're using a sliced in half orange for this painting, and you can see the first thing I'm doing is testing my paints just to see what kind of tones I can get, what kind of shades of different colours that I'm going to need in my painting. You can do this as you're painting, or you can experiment a little bit just before you start. See what happens when you add a small amount of water, and you'll get a strong colour. And then as you wash in more water, you'll be able to see more of the paper coming through. This is very useful when you're doing the underpainting and creating those lighter tones underneath at the start of a painting. There's nothing to stop you adding a little bit of poster paint in as well, and just see how that affects your watercolour. Compare your colours with those in the original and you'll be on the right track. You need to sketch your drawing out lightly. We don't want too much pencil showing at the end. If you think it's a bit dark, rub it out again so you can almost barely see it. And then you can add your masking fluid, like I'm doing now, to the areas that we want to keep white. That will have to dry before we start painting. Once it's dry, start your undercolours. I've started with a wash so I can do wet on wet, because in this part of the picture I want a nice blend between colours. And putting the water on first allows that blend to happen nicely. Remember, I'm starting with my lightest colours, and during the painting I'm going to be building up in layers. If you go wrong, you can add some water and dab that colour off again, or pull the colour off with a dry paintbrush. Next, I'm starting to paint the segments in. I'm still underpainting with my first layer of paint, so this is still the lighter oranges and the more watery oranges. Just put my background in. I can't paint over the areas that I've masked off, so don't worry about that. Just paint over them. Try and keep it smooth and neat. But check that the each sections are slightly different in colour, so you may need slightly lighter colours for your background in some areas, and slightly darker colours in others. Work your way around until you've got all your underpainting done. Next, we're going to start adding a bit more detail, and for this you really need to look closely at your original. I've got mine right next to my picture and I'm looking at it all the time. I'm starting with some dark oranges, where I've mixed some red in as well to get that really dark orange. This can be very good for getting contrast with your white areas, but just see what you can see in your original as you're painting. Work your way around carefully from one segment to the next, building up your colours. You might do 3 or 4 layers before you're happy. Use water to take paint away if you go too far, and you can always paint white back on again as well. You can use poster paint or even a little bit of acrylic paint right at the end if there's somewhere where you feel it needs it. Don't worry about making it perfect though, we're not trying to create a photographic effect here. Your original photograph won't be included in your coursework with your painting, so no one will be able to compare it directly.
So yes, the balance thing. Obviously what I actually want to talk about balance in this is we talk about balance, what I think balance is. But I was inspired to talk about balance and look at unbalance. We'll get to that really quickly.
When your paint is completely dry, you can carefully peel off the masking fluid. You might have to scratch with your nail just to get rid of the really small bits that you put on. Try not to smudge the paint back into the white paper though if you can help it. So just be careful. Some of these areas will actually be too white, so you'll have to work back into it, look at your original and just see where you need to work back into your painting again, just where it's a little bit too white. The final painting with some of the whites taken out and some darker highlights put in.